Last Saturday, UFC 329, Paddy Pimblett easily submitted Benoit Saint Denis in the first round. So let's take a closer look as to how. Going back 2 years ago into Benoit's fight with Dustin Poirier, we see a lot of similarities that we saw with Paddy last Saturday. We see Benoit take the center of the octagon. He likes to trade a lot of low kicks and punches early. He stays here for around 10 to 20 seconds, where then after, he'll flurry into his opponent. He makes sure to back them up against the fence, where he then shoots a deep double leg on them. From here, we can see the main weakness that Paddy made sure to capitalize on in UFC 329. Paddy was able to secure the guillotine here, and we see here with Dustin Poirier, 20 seconds into the fight, he already has his arms around his neck. They then drop to the mat. And remember this flip right here from BSD. He flips over Poirier to get out of the choke. Around a minute later, we have BSD and Poirier in a clinch situation. BSD switches sides, backs Poirier up against the fence this time, where he flurries with punches and shoots another double leg. Dustin's able to hook his arm underneath again and drag BSD down to the mat. This is now the second time in 2 minutes of the fight where this has happened. We see the sequence happen once more around 2 minutes after the last. BSD flurries in with punches, makes sure Poirier's back is against the fence, standing up tall. BSD is thinking about changing levels, and then right here, he goes for it. He goes in, and now for the third time this fight, Poirier has his arms around BSD's neck. And it's really just a rinse and repeat of the last two times. Poirier drags him to the mat, and BSD stays on top position. Around 10 seconds into the second round, we see the same exact thing with BSD. He stands in the center for a little bit. He's okay throwing punches and kicks, but inevitably, he gets Poirier circling out to the fence once more, where he flurries in with punches, and again, shoots another double leg. This one was more because BSD was hurt, but either way, you could tell it was coming. And he has it, it's somewhat in there, somewhat not, but this is the same thing that we saw against Paddy. And this is one of the things that Paddy was able to pick up on. Skipping ahead to BSD's next fight against Prepolek. We see BSD once again stand in the center, trade low kicks. He's okay with putting punches out there for a little bit. And then around the 10-second mark, he thinks about shooting a deep double leg. He gets Prepolek backing up against the fence. And from here, it's really the same thing we saw against Poirier, only Poirier had his arm over BSD's neck. So this is a common factor that he does in almost every fight. We see him do it here, and we also see him do it here against Dan Hooker. At the start of the round again, around 10-20-second mark, he goes, backs him up against the fence, and shoots a deep double. Dan really expected this. You can see he had it cinched up already, and he had it ready. He had not only one arm, but also the second one in there, just to really try to tighten it up even more. We see BSD really trying to avoid that. And again, we see him do the same thing that he did against Poirier. He flips over this way to get out of the choke because Dan stood in front of him trying to get that headlock in. And then around 20 seconds later, we see the same sequence that we've been seeing this whole video happen again. We see BSD start to push in. We get Hooker on one leg, backing up, back against the fence. Really off balance here. Where BSD then goes deep in. 20 seconds later, we see the exact same sequence that we've been seeing happen again. We see Dan Hooker throw a high kick, which BSD catches and pushes in. You know, the same thing with Dan having his back up against the fence, BSD down, shooting a deep double, trying to really get it. And Hooker does a good job at putting his arm over BSD's neck rather than having it in the center like Purple Leg did, having it trapped. Now coming into round two really shows BSD's just wired to be doing this. He comes in with punches, rinse and repeat, backs Hooker up against the fence, and Hooker has his arms locked in there. You can't see it, but you can see where his shoulders are leaning to, and that's quite obvious what he's doing. He tries locking it up there, but BSD does a good job at popping his head out. They then get out of a close quarter situation. BSD starts to get tagged up, so he shoots again. And right here is where you're really able to see how much of a crank Hooker had on BSD. He had his hands locked up here, and he really had his neck cranked back. But, you know, like BSD does, he just rolls over, rolls on out of it, just like how he did in round one, just like how he did against Poirier. Now, moving into how I knew Paddy Pimblett would be able to submit BSD on possibly one of their first exchanges is because of the Bobby Green fight. In this fight, we see, Paddy's usually backing up, but he decides to go forward where Green does the same thing at imitating BSD, only it's not against the fence. But, you know, Green shoots a deep double leg, practically jumps into it. And Paddy's able to stuff it really well. But in the midst of stuffing it, he wraps not only one arm, but also the second arm in there. So they're both clasped together. And he does a really good job at cinching it up so quick. Now, that's something Poirier struggled to do, and that's something Hooker struggled to do, and everybody that fought BSD. But we see the same thing. He drags Green down to the mat. Now, one of the differences here is that unlike with Poirier, unlike with Hooker, unlike with anybody else, Prepelec or whatever, is that after failing the guillotine, he doesn't stop there. He immediately transitions to an arm triangle. He has Green's arm locked up here, his legs around both ways, and Green stuck in there. Now, after a bit of this, Paddy has a very tight grip around Green's neck. He has his arm trapped, he has his head trapped. Green's already out at this point, and this fight really displayed a very good blueprint as to how last Saturday would have went. Now coming into Paddy versus BSD, unfortunately I can't show the fight on here because YouTube just takes on video, but as we saw in the fight, BSD does exactly what he usually does. He runs to the center of the octagon, flurried Paddy up against the fence and shot a deep double. And Paddy, basically what he did against Green, he shot his hips back. He defended the takedown while also, getting his hands in there. And it was a great defense by Paddy. After that, he transitioned into this darce that he has. I think it's a darce. And he rolled with BSD. He did a great job staying on top and executed perfectly. So, that fight was so easy. Looking in hindsight, and even before, just looking at all the tape of BSD, the way he fights and the way that Paddy's able to get submissions off, it was pretty obvious to tell when this fight was going to end and how. So that's the whole breakdown for the video. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed the breakdown, thought it was good, please subscribe. I'm going to be uploading another video sometime this week. And check out my last one if you guys haven't. Thanks for watching.